clutch, hydraulic clutch. I'm pretty sure that the hydraulic hose is collapsed internally. This was really dirty. The fluid was really dirty. It was essentially dry. I don't know how much the hose was dry when I got the bike. You have seen me rebuild the master, rebuild the slave. And we're gonna replace the clutch hose all the way through the bike. I don't exactly know where it runs, but I just did some peeking. It is a single hose that runs from the master here all the way down to the slave. It has a flexible part here that goes and covers the triple tree. Then it becomes a rigid line. It runs on this side of the bike, the left side of the bike, under the frame rail. I can see it here, and it gets here and does a 90-degree turn and then becomes a flex line again. I suspect my failure points are in those rubber flex lines, either at the slave cylinder down at the bottom or up here at this flex line. There's a longer flex line up here. So I will show you what it takes. I think to start, I'm gonna take off the seat. I'm gonna take off this side fairing here so I can see the side of this frame, and hopefully that's gonna get me enough. Maybe I have to take off the air box for the air cleaner and things. I'm not exactly sure what kind of clearance. I can see the clutch line. I'll actually reset the camera and show you, and I can see it on the bottom of this frame rail. I'll do that now. Now here on the left side of the bike, got the covers removed over the fuses, side of the gas tank, the alternator, and if you come in, this is the rigid hydraulic line. So it goes in here and turns 90. Here it's going up under this frame rail and then goes up and disappears under the cowl. So that's what we need to expose. The reverse lever is going to have to come off, get that cowl off. I don't know how many times it's mounted. It has, in a couple of places, this sort of rubber sheathing on it. I'm guessing that's where they have various clamps that hold it in place. All right, so here leaves the master, goes down. It's under a little clip here. There's a little plastic indent. I added that zip tie, little plastic indent. There's another sort of clip bracket here that is capturing it. You can kind of see there's a grommet or a sort of a spacer on the hose. The hose goes down to behind the triple tree. So I'm just lighting it up right there. So let's go underneath and take a look at that. All right, so we're looking up the left-hand fork here. So this hose comes down, makes a crazy bend, goes through a bracket right here. That's actually just a hook. And again, it's another one of those molded brackets that come on the hose. That's where it transitions to a hard line. This is a hard line with a rubber sleeve. And then it has just some cushioning. And then it's essentially under the frame right there, right? Like, it just goes down under the frame and follows the bottom of the frame. I don't see any fasteners if I get up in there. Let me see if I can put the phone. All right, so that's the line under the frame, and it goes down. It's just a pretty big open tunnel down there, and it just follows it until you can see daylight down there by my side. Next thing is to get this banjo bolt undone here. This is 12 millimeter. And contrary to my previous one, now that I've solved it, the bike is running, I do have new crush washers to put here. Did not replace them before, but I do have them now. I ordered them with this new hydraulic line. So banjo bolt, I'm going to thread this in here, just keep it in place. Okay, this is the hydraulic line going down the handlebar. Comes down here. I zip tied this to hold the clutch line sort of into this bundle. So I'm just going to cut this zip tie. did not get all the way through. Let me, there, it's all the way through. Zip ties out of the way. So now this hydraulic line hooks under that bracket, which is part of the bracket below it, and it should snap out of there. Let me see what it takes. I think it should just press out of there. It does. It's just a pinch fit. There's a rubber sort of grommet surrounding the hose, and it pinches in there. And this bail, this kind of metal bail, holds it into these two U-shaped extrusions from this handlebar cover, all part of this lower bracket. So that's it. So it's loose now down to below the fork. So we're loose there. Now you can see the hose. So now I'm going to zoom in more, and now you can see the hose goes down to sort of the bottom of the fork. It does a turn. It's sheathed, and then here's where it does that crazy 90-degree bend, sort of right there. You can just make out the bend, and then it goes into that bracket right there. All right, so now you got a clear visual. I'm going to take a socket extension and see if I can just tap it out. This is where it becomes rigid. Right here is where it transitions. All right, it's out. It's loose. Okay, now things have gotten more serious. I've taken the side fairing off. The side of the lower fairing on the left side. I have taken out the fan, the radiator fan on this side to visualize the side of the frame. There is a clip holding this hydraulic line on. You can see the hydraulic line from where we sit right here. I'm going to zoom in. This is it here on the bottom of the frame tube, and there is a clip right there that is holding that hydraulic line in place. I think it is remotely possible that you could dislodge that and fish the new one without taking this fan off, but I would never have been able to show it to you. You could see this clip from around here. This is the reverse lever. This is the alternator. And looking up through here, I could see it. And I could probably stick a screwdriver or the extension of the socket or something and maybe pop it loose. But I wouldn't be able to show it to you. So I took this off, and now I'm gonna try to pop that loose from under there. When I wiggled the front of the hydraulic line, it was not wiggling at the back, so I knew there was another fixing point, and this is it. And we're gonna see how this goes. I'm right behind it. It's open in the back. Brakes, pushes right out. There we go. That's it. That's it. It's free up to the top. I got a lot of movement. I can see it moving. I've got free movement here. If you look back on the frame, you can see it moving. So I've got free movement there. Now I'm dealing with the fixing points back at the slave cylinder. That's what I have left. Let's get over there. I'm going to switch over to the right side of the bike back by the slave cylinder and disconnect the banjo bolt and go from there. Okay, here I'm on the right side of the bike and I have the plastic covers off for the battery and the side of the engine. And if you come in here, down low, behind the engine, this is your slave cylinder. That's the banjo bolt for the slave cylinder. And that is the end of the hydraulic line. So I can see that hydraulic line goes vertically up. Again, difficult to see. That's it again, vertically up. And then here, it converts right there, and it looks like it's held into a clip to hold it in place, and it converts to a rigid line and goes across to the left side above the bleeder. I'll have to unhook it there, undo that banjo bolt, unhook it there, and go across to the left side of the bike. I actually, to pry this, I came right in here through this opening where the camera is, and this is the drive shaft. I levered off of that and pried up, and that's how I got it off. It is undone. Now I will see about fishing it out from the other side. Okay, back on left side. We've gotten deeper. I have taken the alternator out. Alternator goes here, 3 bolts. You gotta disconnect some electrical lines. There is a negative battery, negative terminal to disconnect. And then I laid it up here, out of the way. I don't think you could do this without taking the alternator out. I don't know. Maybe you could. I wouldn't be able to show it to you. This is the hydraulic line. It goes behind that clip. This is the 90-degree bend I was talking about. There's the flex line. There's the fixing point. I think I can find that fixing point there. That's not the wire that goes in it. So now, terrible lighting, sorry about that. Now I can fish this hose out of here. That's it. That's that 90-degree bend. And that's where it converts to flexible. So now I can pull this down and out. So I should start by saying that up here at the front, at the fork, I have pulled the hose down through from the handlebar, and it is hanging down. So this is the banjo bolt from the master. And now this is where it goes down under the frame. You can see how much movement I've got. I'll show you what that looks like along the frame. You can see it should just fish out of there. You just have to get it access. So really the alternator has got to come out. You've got to take a fan out to get that fixing point here. That fixing point in here undone. All right, let's see if we can just sort of fan handle this through this tunnel here. Seems like there's more room in there. Oh yeah, it's going. I'm assuming it has to go from the top down because of that 90-degree bend in the hard line at the bottom. But I'll tell you right here, I don't have a lot of clearance. It certainly doesn't like it's binding up on something here. Maybe it has more room than I think it does, but I sure can't visualize it. But that's got to be the way it comes out. There's no way that 90-degree bend would work. Otherwise, I'm gonna get a better peek at what might be going on. Keep in mind, we've still got to get the banjo bolt through this tunnel. The banjo bolt from the top master cylinder through this tunnel. I am clearly dragging on this rubber. Maybe I need to go higher.
getting it back through here is... Alright, that's all of it except I lost the boot. The boot that was on the banjo bolt. It's out, but I lost that boot somewhere up in there, so I'll have to fish that out. Lord knows where that is. Rubber boot, I don't really care if it stays where it is. However, I gotta fish the new one through there, but I got the line out. It's the most important thing. Look how big that 90 degree, look how sharp that 90-degree bend is. No wonder it fails. I bet you when we cut this open, that is going to be our fail point. That's terrible. But we'll see. We will see. Let me get the new one. And we'll see what they look like. All right, I'm going to unwrap this, but this is a brand new Honda clutch cable, clutch hose. There you go. Hose Honda 22900-MAM A80. I will unwrap this and we will take a look at it. All right, here is new hose. And here is old hose. Let's take a look. We'll start with the crazy 90-degree bends. So they look like they substantially match. The new hose here has the grommet. The grommet is directly on where the hard line transitions to the soft line. So that's where they clamp it. It's kind of nice. So then the flex starts after that. Banjo bolt. This is what goes on the slave cylinder. Different color finishes. Totally irrelevant. Hard line. Still, my hard line on the original has a bend here. I'm guessing I'm going to have to induce that bend in it. They do have the strain relief. Not exactly the same strain relief. Close though, because remember, these slid probably. This is where it was pinched against the frame. So my guess is these slid when I pulled it out. So these new ones are probably where they're supposed to go. Looks like there'll be some degree of bending to get it to match. Now let's flip it over. So the new one has a new boot, banjo bolt, new rubber boot, new flex line. It has, this is the new one, it has the grommet. And remember, this is the grommet that goes into the clamp on the handlebars. Then it goes down to where it has that crazy 90-degree bend. And the new one has a lot of bend right there. And it also has the grommet for clamping as well. There is a bend here and a bend there. Looks like the rotation isn't exactly the same, but we'll see as we fish it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this boot off. I don't want to lose it in the frame. I'm going to wrap this with tape because I don't want to get crud in the banjo bolt. And then I'm going to try to fish this up into that tunnel. I did fish the old boot out of the tunnel. It was right there. It was really easy. It's big and chunky. It would be easy to catch on stuff. I think this bare banjo bolt will be easier to fish in there. Like I said, I'm going to wrap that in tape and I'll put the boot back on after I get it all the way through. So let me set that tripod back up and we'll do that. So I've taken blue masking tape and taped the end of the line. Good time here. Yet. Again, I forced it out, right? So see if I can get my hand further in here. Get a little bit greater void for it to go through. I definitely see things moving around. I don't know whether it should go up, over, under. There's all sorts of hoses, wires, and tubes in here. All right, I got fingers on it. Now you can see I've got it through. Now, I don't know if it's up, over, or under any hoses that it should be or shouldn't be to make clearance. So this may all be coming out again shortly. In fact, here, if I'm definitely under the frame, I'm under a hose that I need to be over, so we got to back it up and reposition that. So we're going to back up, and we are going to go over a bunch of hoses here. I have the reverse lever cables. It clearly needs to go over those. And then I have this vacuum line for this vacuum canister. Clearly it needs to go over that. So we are going to back it up here and get it on top of those here at the front part of the frame. All right, that definitely is correct to go over those. Now, again, back behind here, I don't know how it's doing. Now, from here on out, I know I follow the bottom side of that frame up to the front, so that's where I'm going to be fishing it, is along the bottom side of that frame, and you have a pretty good feel and visual for that. Yeah. Pretty good feel and visual for that. So that comes out up near where that front clip is. So that's that front bracket is. So that's good. Now I need to get enough of it up. It's a fairly straight line. I don't have any reason to think I'm going to have any major obstructions. The rigid line is going to fight you, clearly, and you don't want to induce too many extra bends in it, but I'm guessing you could flex it a little here and flex it a little there to get it up kind of to where we want to be. All right, now I'm going to turn this in, the flex line in towards the slave cylinder, and get it roughly where my 90s should be. So that's pretty good. All right, I'm mostly where I want to be. I'm going to start moving you closer, showing you what we've got. So this is my line. This is that 90 where it jogs down. This goes, the lead for the alternator has to get out of the way, meaning the clutch hydraulic line goes up against the frame. And then, now that I've taken the alternator, I have a much better sight of that clip, and I'm going to get that clipped in first, reroute all those drain hoses. I'm going to take you freehand and show you what that looks like. Okay, so moving in to behind the clutch. This is the clutch. That is the slave cylinder. This is the bleed line for the clutch slave cylinder. So here's my 90. Focus is probably bad. This is my clip, my C-clip where the hose is going to go. So I'm going to reach this up like this. Now what I have is I have a couple of drain hoses for overflow from the fuel and the like. They actually come through like this and go loop through it. This loops through it. So I go back behind the frame. This comes up. And goes in there. Lines up and presses in. I'm going to press that in. then I'll show you. All right, there's my new clutch line in that clip right here. Hard line comes over here. We have these drain hoses that go through it. This is the electrical lead for the alternator. Really hard to see what we're showing you. Okay, the clip under the frame, so midway down, it looks like it bent a little right there from where it was before. I'm going to try to press that back up so it holds it tighter. Alrighty, here's that clip. I just took a socket extension and sort of smashed it. It is tighter. It's as tight as I think I need it to be, and it's clipped on where the rubber protective sheath is for the line. So we are working our way back to the front. All right, up here at the front, you can see the hose coming off the frame. Has the sheath, you can see the clip. I need to manipulate it to get it into that clip, so I'm going to work on that. I don't think I can film anything without my hands being in the way. Okay, there you go. It moves a little. Interestingly, this distance is critical, I think, so you have to undo the middle bracket and get this one in first. Okay, now our banjo bolt. Let's unwrap our tape. And I have two new crush washers for this banjo bolt. One on either side of the banjo bolt. Let's get a 12mm. Now, we're going to get that just not even snug. Now we need to get the slack in this hydraulic hose dealt with here. So I'm going to turn you a little bit and let you see what's going on down in here. So we have a lot of slack. We have this rubber grommet and it needs to snap down there. So we're going to move it down and snap it in where we want it. Probably blocking your view. That's it, in there. Hopefully you can see that. And then we get this round in here. That is the amount of slack we want for this entire operation. Now I can tighten this banjo bolt up the rest of the way. Oh, you know what I'm forgetting? I'm forgetting the boot. There's a rubber boot that goes on there. Gives you a clear visual, but not the way it finishes out. It gets a big dust boot. So we're going to put that on there. So this is a stretch and pull a rubber operation.